Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. This is the first live stream I've done in a while. Let me close some of these windows. And basically what I'm going to be doing in this live stream is just coding up an Express API from scratch. So let me see here. What window am I in? I need a new window. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to open it up to my Scratch folder right here. I'm going to close up these windows. I'm going to open up this folder. So I'm going to go open up folder, Scratch Express. Good. And here I am. Close all the stuff from our previous thing. And then I'm going to make a new folder that is, let's see here, we'll just call another Express app. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the terminal in that folder. I'm going to install the following libraries: npm install Express, because I'm going to be using Express, Mongoose, because we're going to connect a Mongo database. I'm going to get .env, because I want to store all my environmental variables. I am going to add Mongo Rester, which is a library I created for quickly spinning up a REST API. I am going to also include Morgan for logging, and I think that's a good start. And Notamon, except I'll install Notamon separately. So I will do that. Then I'm going to install Notamon as a dev dependency. /save -dev. Cool. So let me just double check my package.json. Oh, I forgot to set up the package.json. So I'm going to have to install that again. As you can tell, I literally just woke up like 10 minutes ago. So let's see here. And Brooklyn's already filled with sounds at 8:11 in the morning. But what I should have done is touch the server.js, have my server.js file ready, create my package.json, npm init-y, and then run those commands. Notamon dev. There we go. And just to double check that this is all installed right, I'll look at my package.json. There we go. Notamon is a dev dependency, and the others as dependencies. Good. I'm going to create some scripts. I'm going to get rid of this test script, and I'm going to add a dev script, which is going to be Notamon server.js. That's cool with me. Okay, now let's first just get our server running. Okay, so first I always like to label my file, and I got a plugin called Better Comments that allows me to color code my comments, so I can do stuff like this. My dependencies. Okay, so first I'd like to bring in Express. After I bring in Express, what I want to do is I want to establish my application object. Object require Express. Actually, I should have brought .env first, so require .env, and again, that's where we're going to be able to store our environmental variables. Config. Okay. I want to bring in, I'm not going to bring in Mongoose quite yet. I will bring in Morgan. Okay, and I will leave it at that for now. Then there's going to be my middleware. So this is all the different kind of functions that'll run before I get to my routes. I will always want to set up, I always want to make sure I set up, I always do app.use to use these middleware functions. I want to make sure I use Morgan, and I'm going to use the tiny logging preset. I want to use express.json so we can parse JSON data from requests. And I do want to add cores as well. So I'm going to install cores, npm install cores. This sets the cores headers. I could do it manually and make my own custom cores header, my own custom cores middleware, but I don't got, I'm just too lazy for that right now. Maybe I'll go back and do that later on. But for now, I'm just going to have just this app.use cores. Okay. That'll do that trick. Okay, so then this will be where my routes go. Routes and routers, which we'll get to later. And then here I will have my listener. And this will just be app.listen. But I need a port variable. Okay, so we're going to assume that when I set up my .env, I'm going to get a variable called port from it. So that means that's all my environmental variables get stored in this object called process.env. That's what .env does. It stores it in Node's process object. But what if it doesn't exist? I will default to 3000. Okay, so that gives it a default number of 3000. That works for me. And I will say app.listen port. And then we set up a callback. Put some backticks, console.log. Listening on port. Use interpolation, so we can put the port variable in there. So listening on port. Okie dokie. There we go. Yay for all my Discord and Slack automations. And on that note, if you're watching this, you should go join the Slack and Discord community over there at devnursery.com. You can talk to me. I'm on there all day, and you can meet other cool coders. So very, very cool. And I'm gonna start doing this more often, especially I just started the Patreon. So if you become a supporter on Patreon, the more that bigger that gets, the more time I'll dedicate to doing lots and lots of live streams and hitting the topics that you patrons want. So do consider that. There's actually a tier where you can get like a free mug, a free t-shirt. You know, you get a gift every 3 months. But on that note, I see a red squiggly line. Let's inspect. Oh, I guess I must be missing the closing backtick. There we go. So next thing I want to do is just test my server, make sure that it's running. npm run dev. Oop, something's wrong. Cores is not defined. Oops, I forgot to import cores. Const cores equals require cores. Okay, so again, whenever we see that it's a not defined error, that means I either forgot to install it, so my import didn't work, or I defined it wrong, or I forgot to define it altogether, like what happened just now, or I might have had a typo, so then I referred to it by a different name than what I imported it as. Okay, it's always really important to like be able to look at an error and get a better and better idea of what it's referring to. Okay, so again, the keyword here is defined. So that means a variable of mine is not defined. So I need to see what is defining that variable and why is it not defining it the way I think it's defining it. And then usually you get a line of code too, but this was kind of obvious, so this wasn't as necessary. And you know, as you get all this other stuff, but usually the error that you want is really like right there. So when you're looking at these node errors, I always scroll to the top of it and go from there. Oh, it looks like the port got stuck. Okay, so when you get this error, e address in use, that means probably what happened is that when I fixed this typo, or I fixed the lack of an import, the server restarted, but the port never got freed up. Like the previous server didn't like end in time. So port 3000 is now like stuck. Okay, what I need to do is kill that server, and the command to do so I have always saved right over here to the side because I use it all the time, except, oh, here it is. So Control C. So I'll let you look at it. Sudo kill Not sure what the 9 flag is doing. Okay. But the idea is that you kill whatever's here. Okay, sudo kill, and I want to kill port 3000, so that works for me. Put in my sudo password, and that port should be freed up now. Okay, but we know the servers, oh, okay, we didn't really quite test it, so there we go, the port is running. Oops, I'm not sure what I just closed, but whatever. Local host 3000, and good. That's a good sign that our server is working, because it's a message from Express. It just means that Express cannot return a response for a GET request to the root, because we haven't built a response to that yet. So we have a server that's listening, but whatever it listens to, it has no response for, because we haven't done that yet. That's fine. So I will close that for now. Now we want to set up our database connection. So what I like to do is create a new folder. I'll call it DB. Okay, in that folder I'm going to make a new file called con for connection.js. Here's where we'll set up our Mongoose connection, and I should probably set up my .env. .env. And then here we can put our environmental variables, so port. This I will set up to 4000, so that way you can see that it takes from this when I have it. We need to set up my Mongo URI, so MongoDB URI. We'll set that up in just a moment, and I think that's all I really need right now. So I am going to head over. I always have to Google this. Default local MongoDB URI. Okay, and that's this right here. So this is assuming that you have Mongo installed locally. So you've installed the Mongo server and have it running. Okay. In that case, this would be the URL to connect to it locally. If once you're going to actually deploy it, then you'd have to go get a URL from mongodb.com. A local host, let's just call the database, whatever we're going to make an app for today. Okay, we'll make another blog app, so we'll just call this Bloggity. Okay. Bloggity will be the name of the database. Cool. So let's go back to my connection file. Const mongoose. So I'm going to import mongoose. Require mongoose. Okay, and then I am going to want to, oh, I need to make sure I bring in my environmental variables. So require .env .require, .config. There we go. Okay, let me just label my stuff. I like labeling my stuff. Okay. Dependencies. Okay, then after we do that, I'm going to have my config object. Okay, as a config object you can pass to Mongo. I only really pass in 2 of its properties because it's just to get rid of the deprecation warnings. Const config equals use unified topology true. And the only reason I have these 2 memorized is because I've done this so many times. Use new URL parser. That will be true. Cool. Then we're gonna connect. So let's connect. Okay, and then I'm gonna do mongoose.connect, and that's going to be a function that takes in the MongoDB URI, which I need to destructure from my environmental variables. Const Mongo. Oh, I need to destructure it. MongoDB URI, just because I do not want to do the extra typing of having to type in MongoDB URI twice. So process.env. And that way if I need to pull anything else out of there, I already got the structure for it. So cool. So MongoDB URI, and then I want the config object. Cool. Now I always like to have messages when these things connect, so I'm going to set up all my events. Okay, there's an event called mongoose.connection, which can listen for events, so let's do those. Okay, the first one we want to listen to is for when the connection opens. And when that connection opens, what we want is the console log. You are connected to Mongo. And then I will copy that twice because there's two other events I want to make events for. Okay, close. You are disconnected to Mongo. And error. Now error is special because it gets past an argument. The error event. So in that case, I just want to console log the error. And that's fine with me. And then we will export this connected object. Okay, and I'm going to use, and just do module dot exports equals mongoose. Now, so that way my server gets connected. I'm going to go connect that to my server.js. So that's the version of mongoose that I'll export here. Const mongoose equals require, and then I'm requiring dot slash db slash con.js. Okay, so in that case, what happens here, again, the way Node works, is that when it sees a requirement, think about it this way, it's creating like a list of what order these files need to run in, for that way everything that needs to happen happens in the right order. So if it sees these require statements, it's going to put those ahead of this particular server.js running. So when I want to run this file, it's going to run this, and this first. And now if those requirements have requirements, then those will get run before them. So it creates this sort of large sort of path or chain of events. So in that case, since this was required, this file will run before this file technically runs, still using sort of that current path as the context. So the result will be is that the mongoose connection will have been established by the time it gets to that require statement. So that's neat. Okay, so now I should be able to get both successful messages. Yep, I am connected to Mongo. I am listening on port 4000. So good. Okay, so mission 2 complete. We've connected to the database. Now let's create our API. So I'm going to go to, I need to create a models folder. New folder, models, so we can define our mongoose schema. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this blog.js, and I'm going to bring in const. I need to bring in schema, and actually I don't even need to do that because I'm using Mongo RESTer. Okay, so I'm going to actually change this to controller. Because you'll see what Mongo RESTer does. It takes care of a few things. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to just bring in const RESTer from, equals require Mongo RESTer. So instead of me having to create a schema, then connect the model, then export it, and create all of my routes, this kind of does everything for me. Okay. One of my favorite creations. So basically all I have to do is create a schema object. we'll call this blog schema equals, and the blog schema will have a title, which is a string. It will have a body, which is a string, and that's fine for me. And then basically what this gives us back is const. We get back the blog model, and we get back the blog router from using the rester function. And what we do is we pass it into this. We just pass in the name of the model, blog, and we pass in the schema, blog schema, and there we go. This is going to be my blog model. So if I wanted to use it in other routes, I can export it, then export it to other controllers. And then here's my router with my CRUD routes, all set and ready to go. Okay, with my standard CRUD routes. Very nice. Okay, so now all I have to do is just module.exports, and I'll export it as an object. So I'll export it as an object with blog and blog router. Okay, so now we have those to use those wherever I want. Okay, so nice. So now I can go import those over here. So I'll say all I really want is the router, so I'm gonna just bring in the blog router from /controller /blog, and then we can set up the router over here. app.use blog router, and we want to use that whenever the route says blog. Cool. And we've done it. We've created a full CRUD API. So let's try it out. Oops, something broke. Modules is not defined. Oops. So I think that's over here. It's module.exports. There we go. Okay, and the cool thing is if I want to add more routes to router, I can just go in here and then just start doing like blog router .get and just adding any extra routes I want. And there's ways for me to override the original CRUD routes if I wanted to. There's a third argument you can pass in that's an object. You can pass in you can override routes, change the default query on the index route. There's also cool stuff you can do. But just by doing this, you have full CRUD. Okay. So that's neat. Okay, and if you ever want to see like the full list of libraries I've created, just head over to alexmercedcoder.com. Head over to JavaScript libraries. Okay, and then you can see all the different libraries I've created and documentation on NPM, GitHub, video and blog tutorials. Generally, here's like a little command so you can get started with that library. Lots of good stuff. Okay, and then again, do consider supporting my efforts on Patreon if you do enjoy what I do. Okay, cool. Now let's see here. This should be running now, and it is. Now what we want to do is we want to run Postman. Postman. Do 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 do. Okay, we are on localhost 4000 at the moment. And this is /blog. So right now I should be able to get an empty array from the get route. So let me just make sure this is a get request. Oh, something not 100% right. Let me just see here. This is 4000. Let me go check my router. Oh, I didn't put the slash here. There we go. That should be /blog. So let's try that again. There we go, it's working. Okay, now let's create a blog. So that's a post request to the blog route. So your default RESTful route, so they generally you're gonna have the same pattern that if you follow RESTful conventions should have. So get to the endpoint gets me all the data. Post to the endpoint will allow me to create a new item. So in this case, we're going to create a title. Okay, and again, this is, I'm setting raw data, which is in the format of JSON. Okay, so that way Postman sets all the right headers. Title, this is a blog. And the body is, this is the body of that blog. Cool. And technically this should send me, and there you go. I can see that it's successfully created because I can see the ID number. Now, for me to update, now let's try updating this item. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is just going to make a few of these. Okay, and let's just do the get request again, just to see that we're getting all of them, and see all the different items have been added to our database. Nice. And now let's go to put to update one of them. So I'm going to update this one. Again, RESTful convention for the update route. We're going to add the ID to the end of the endpoint, and we're going to grab this ID as a URL param. So that's how I know which one to update, and then I just send them my new data. So I'm going to say, this is an updated blog, soon to be deleted. Okay, send. And see, it sends me the updated item. So see, it's been updated. And then if I go to delete, once again, it pulls the ID from the URL. I hit send. It's been deleted. So now if I go do a get request, take this ID off, we'll see that now I no longer have that one there. Okay, so cool. We got full CRUD, and we did it in record time. Okay. Yeah, so that we did. We created a really basic Express API using Mongo Rester as a tool to help us kind of speed up the process. Another way you could speed up the process is you can use one of my templates. Okay, so just to show you a second route, close others. Okay, if I were to create, let's say I were to make my new folder, we'll call this my new app. So I want to make a new full stack app. I can just go right over here, open this folder in terminal, and I can just do npx make full stack app. And then I can just be like, I want an Express backend with a React front end. Okay, and there's a bunch of different options. So you could do like Fastify with Vue, Koa with Svelte. Read the documentation. It's in my list of libraries, make full stack app, but watch what it does. So I hit enter on that. Okay, cool. And that's done. Now if I go to my new app, I have two folders in here now, front end and back end. And there's no repos. So you can still put your individual repo in back end, but if I go in here, there's an Express template. And see, all the Express stuff is all kind of set up for you. So all you have to do is just customize it. Very nice. Okay, again, these templates are generally more useful if you're pretty familiar with these libraries like React and Express. Generally, if you are new to these things, it's probably best that you do type out the boilerplate, because you need to get familiar with how it's constructed, so that way you can use my template and know what all the different parts are doing, so that way you can mold it. Okay, so templates are nice, but templates aren't really like training wheels. And that's, I think, a mistake a lot of people do, is that they'll use things like a bootstrap or a template or certain libraries as sort of a shortcut to do things that they don't know how to do yet. The problem is you'll have a hard time using the library because you're not going to quite understand what it's trying to do. So even using the shortcut will seem really hard and confusing because you don't know what's happening under the hood. Now, once you do understand it, these shortcuts do make life a lot easier. But keep in mind, like, you want to go through the learning process of doing it the hard way first. And then there's a front end app here with a React install that you can do stuff with. There you go. So with one command, you just have basically your front end and back end boilerplate, and you just kind of go forward from there. So very cool. Okay, my name is Alex Merced. You've been watching this live stream. I'm going to kind of end it now. Oops. Okay, so let me head over to my thing. I'm going to stop this. You guys subscribe to the channel. So if you're following on Twitch, become a follower. If you are on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. Wherever you're watching this, just keep watching and share. That would be very appreciated. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this today.